blood, its lines in the vein. No proprietary cage, just breaking the chain.
Welcome everyone to another release of We Did It Again. Over 900, actually nearly 1,000 hours since the last minor release. Proud to announce T2 2412, Sky's the Limit, a little bit inspired by good old SGI slogans. We are pleased to announce T2 2412, another major update for a now total of 33 freaking pre-compiled, fully cross-compiled base ISOs, usually with Wayland and Firefox, OpenJDK, QEMU, LibreOffice, XFCE, desktop, you name it. For, of course, nearly all and then some upstream supported CPU architectures, including Alpha, ARM, HPPA, and the infamously deleted Itanium, and AVR32 and other things upstream deleted. Spark, of course, and stuff. On most architectures, we boot in less than half a gigabyte of memory, 512 or less, like ThinkP3. We are not even exaggregating like PS3. You can obviously boot in 250 megabyte of memory. And also viewer contribution, initial support for booting on Nintendo Wii U of all 3-core IBM PowerPC 750 alike with SMPification core. Of course, otherwise, Spark 64, Itanium, Sony P3, SJ Octane, O2 improvements all over the place. And also, we now build more than ever before, because previously we only built the larger all-desktop package selection for mainstream architectures. But so many people love the vintage and retro systems and want to use them that now we also ship support for OpenJDK, LibreOffice on these other architectures. That is also why this took so much time, because patching OpenJDK for various architectures that apparently it was never built before, QEMU, all the other things. We also restored, it should be live on both. Did I not click? No, it should be live on both. I think, whatever, if that works or not. So yeah, increasingly more popular dual YouTube and Twitch live stream. Live broadcast here coming from our T2 headquarters. Yeah, extra time as the usual upstream regressions, right? Spark 64 in disarray. Upstream, totally not stable. Previous videos, right? glibc broken, Linux kernel broken. We took 8 hours here, 20 hours there. In the middle, we were spotted by crazy people and the police. But also additionally, we improved bootloader things like SGI, O2, Octane, things that never booted as smoothly before. Other things like last minute, people subscribed to our Twitch channel knew we actually were already done with releasing, and people realized, first they realized we installed grub2 on PowerPC with the wrong configuration, so that didn't just boot. One character typo thing of not the compressed image, fine. That also, of course, like 1 hour here, 1 hour there. At the end of the day, you are the whole week or month busy. Additionally, the GNU file people broke file, at least when cross-compiled with another endianness. So even then, in testing, even it passed unit testing, we only tested. We actually had the unit test for file, but we thought like if file can identify ASCII file, that's fine. Turns out no. The endianness thing, you have seen it, one of the last patches, we bisected this, and of course everything, every stream a win. Not only I learned something, I hope you learned something, but we also set up git bisect test to automatically bisect more professionally and faster in the future. And yeah, things like this, right? 2,158 changes, including over 3,280 package updates. These are more package updates than changes, because some we group, like group update all of KDE, GNOME. 200 issues fixed, like EFI registration here, grub2 thing there, right? SGI boot detailed there, similar such, or GNU file not working, glibc not correctly system calling on Spark 64, or things to Chinese Xianghua developers glibc infinite looping on IDT WinChip things as a recurrently random theme, not to mention our first Rambus GPU that also Xdriver didn't start anymore. Very few things removed, 37 things, usually some decade-old package. We keep stuff long around, but when we find like 20-year-old stuff that didn't build in 20 years, eventually it is time to say goodbye, or other things that simply were not good or whatnot. And over 20 improvements committed. So of course, these are more than 20, like this is 20 improvements of like we used the word improve in the commit message. Often we just improve things and did not, like obviously there are probably 100 improvements. Unfortunately, while doing this, my to-do still grew. Also, like we obviously fully automated unit tests in the meantime, right? And I also, I think I didn't click here pause enough, and then I should also check the internal build all. Like let's just unit test x86-64, right? And then just like this. Our stuff is tested, preferably, of course, before the release. NAT is AI-Tanium homage thing of that is not a thing that's not there to test because we didn't cross-build this. We have some more tests in. And yes, that is only the beginning, but this minimal test suite is already more than most Linux distributions have of fully automated release testing. Yes, obviously we could test way more. And hey, we added another file test of like testing more than an ASCII file. Including, of course, fully automated installation, fully automatically tested with QEMU KVM here of after the init test things running, and even complexes as does Java work, does QEMU emulate other architectures, everything fully automated for all the architectures. Yes, for some it fails, like Java, usually for most other architectures crashes QEMU, user space emulation, but that is not our bug, that is another thing. Yeah, that is probably Guinness World Record Versi, the Linux distribution supporting the most, aka nearly all. I have to say nearly all because there are some cursed architectures. Hey, cursed architectures, we support CCP Chinese Long Arch 64, which obviously nearly nobody else supports, except maybe Gentoo or Alpine or so. Probably the three Linux distributions that support Long Arch. But there are some other things that one like totally cursed things that I don't even like, basically embedded things where I don't even remember the name. And some even like I wanted even to support them. And obviously next we will support them because obviously we want to support all and then some. So, all right, I think C-Sky 1 doesn't have a C library. So I think we support nearly everything else except, was it deleted recently? Maybe C-Sky. And so some, like maybe this does not have a upstream C library. There is some patch floating around. Like basically, yeah, we can't build all user space without a C library. Yes, there is some patch. Yes, we should probably pull it in. Yes, the next release will probably support C-Sky. And other stuff recently deleted. There was some Hitachi stuff and others where support was somehow incomplete and not the most upstream. But that doesn't stop us from probably supporting this eventually too. So yeah, don't delay. Try the most amazing, even for free, greatest of all times T2 releases because so much and so many architectures, so many packages, and so many bugs fixed, and so much automated unit testing we and very few people have ever done before. You find more information on our release page here, where we at least compiled some things. We now have a system-wide totally usability improvement T2 Symlink to simply T2 install from everywhere. No further cd change directory to user source T2 home. No, just T2. You boot your, it's like, hey, all test suite passes for this release for most architectures. So if you boot T2, also previously we had a bug for everyone who previously tried T2 and couldn't get it installed or didn't boot. I didn't realize it for months until I could reproduce this myself. We did not register the EFI boot manager correctly, which is a totally hilarious bug. And I did not realize because I always rely on the BIOS to just display it. And I basically use it a little bit more professionally different than others. So that bug is fixed if you previously did install and couldn't get it to boot. That is fixed on x86. So the most important architecture now easier to install on necessities for gracious living, like latest and greatest ThinkPad things with Intel and AMD CPUs, aka the stuff normal people have and not Itanium and SGI things. So previously, if you tried T2, you might know, or the 20 plus year old Rock Linux things. So now, of like, if I would find whatever I done with my login or so, not sure what I did. Probably. So just install what should be like BTOP or stuff, right? And actually, I didn't. Good that we test this live because actually I never use it like this. I mean, yeah, certainly the smallest things, and that is the usability difference of it is annoying and it is amazing. It's often the small things. You do 99% of the work and the last 1% of making it easier for normal users to use. And just like this, it is easier, smoother, more amazing than ever. That is why it is the top most user visible change. Of course, latest greatest GCC, uslibc, of course, Musel and glibc, but there wasn't an update for those. Latest Linux kernel, latest stable Linux kernel with improvements. I made myself continued the mission to deliver the best for me and hopefully for some of you Linux experience. That is also importing up next things, because often improvements take months or years to get upstream in Linux kernel. So for example, if you saw on some news sites the 3000% or the 89%, for example, LVM RAID, MD, multi-device bitmap improvement, as seen on some news sites, 89%. T2 is shipping with that already. I built all those ISOs with, for example, this 89% on quad SSD, because we're building on dual, but test case from those Chinese developers there at some university, I believe. 89%, we tested this, we stress tested this, we built hundreds of gigabyte data sources and stuff, built artifacts, and that was better performing and survived. And we will probably, like, given that T2 is now mostly feature complete except the microkernel, share, like, and subscribe. Great things to hopefully come next year. And my mission, increasingly upstream changes that are on news sites of 89 or 127 or up to 6,000% in certain micro benchmarks. Hold my microphone. Let's commit this. Let's make T2 the most best and outstanding stellar. Did I say the sky was the limit? Actually, I think the next limit will be space. And obviously, space grade performance increasingly coming here. Because we can just pull a upstream next patch, drop it into our build system, and have it automatically cross-build in seconds or minutes, depending on the package size. Also, you have seen this before I restored, because it annoyed me. You see here upstream Linux kernel foundation with their 300 million budget. The only constant is change and deletions, right? They don't like Itanium, they delete it. They don't like 386, they delete it. They don't like certain older Power PCs, they delete it. They don't like 32-bit KVM, they want to delete that now too. I wonder if we need to pull in all those deleted next patches, revert them. Of course, like Ryza 3, they will delete. I have a huge stack of old hard drives from 20 years of T2 that are Ryza 3. Of course, we will restore Ryza 3 because it's silly to delete that. I wonder at that rate we could also eventually fork the Linux kernel, but I'm just not the most motivated to do that. But otherwise, let's make T2 the last safe haven for all the great features upstream. Somehow cannot maintain with 300 millions in funding. So maybe share, like, and subscribe and drop us $1 of donations for all the future maintenance of Ryza 3, 32-bit KVM, older Power PC, everything we need to undelete. And comment below, is the next codename undeleted or space? Is the limit the final frontier? Maybe community choice. So scroll back 4 years ago, deleted by Linus, the benevolent dictator Torvalds himself. Scroll back, a super useful feature. Your system doesn't boot, you get an oops, you want to scroll back. You can't anymore because obviously scrolling a terminal like so, too difficult in C, apparently it worked for 30 years, or nearly 30 years. Of course, we restored it. Only took 4 hours. Yes, the live stream was 6, but we also did other things like making GCC compile correctly working atomics code for Microblaze, because obviously that's not maintained really correctly anymore upstream. So 4 hours for scrollback, which, yes, it would be faster. Actually, did I? Not sure if I think I forgot. I just remembered I forgot a feature. So this is, of course, a static picture, but just a representation also, as it is actually another feature. But like, believe me, previous live stream, in T2, you can now freaking scroll back text on the frame buffer in VGA console as seen here live last Sunday on these channels. And if I would have concentrated and not live streamed, probably would have reverted this in 2 hours. Also, it was a mess to revert with 20 changes in between. So, and then we cleaned it up a little bit. So, totally amazing feature, as according to our YouTube poll, other people miss that too. So apparently something of like Linux kernel foundation deleting stuff also a lot. Yeah, most people okay, not at all. I don't use Linux. Yeah, from those, I don't know who voted what there, but hey, 183 people at least voted, totally representative, but at least a lot people missed that. Yeah, totally life-changing feature for diehard minimalists and professional users like I and hopefully you. I have no idea how this could just be deleted, but certainly something we will implement even better in our upcoming microkernel. And it's now available in T2 Linux again. Also, I think I forgot to mention this. Good that I summarize this, because I think I forgot to mention, I should probably add there. I also changed live on Twitch that we select a better font, because upstream font selection, also this is the wrong picture. You can also, for all the greatest things and mainstream media reports here, actually live on German TV. But upstream, just clicked the wrong arrow button. This is upstream. You boot on a Microsoft Surface. You get, yes, it's unsharp. Hey, it was midnight. Eventually, I'm also tired. Also only in Android. So, yeah, that is, imagine it is sharp. I should have redone it, but eventually I'm also lazy. So that is the difference. Yes, it's sharper and stuff, but the point is readable text, right? Because it is full HD on a Microsoft Surface. And this text is, yes, I can read it. It's just not pleasant. I really need a magnification glass. And even more crazy on the Sony Vaio P, which I also have somewhere, probably here. Yeah, so this is upstream original, like if you install it. Also, upstream original doesn't boot on the Sony Vaio P, because the GMA 500 driver infinite loops on setting LVDS parameter registers, which we actually debugged 6 months ago, and I did not yet have the funding to send upstream. Also, probably nobody cares. So like if upstream would boot, and maybe it does boot sometimes, and it doesn't infinite loop on LVDS control register writes, then that is a text that you would get. Also, I think there's a theme. Is it that somehow T2 had to fix and some cursed thing for nearly every device I have here in my collection? Or also I actually use, did I say sky's the limit? Yeah, there's a pattern, maybe you notice. And so, yes, that is upstream default, which, yes, is readable, but is really, really, really tiny. And I think most of you, at least I, prefer T2 Linux now actually choosing a readable font for such display sizes. I don't know what all the other 2000 Linux distributions do, except maybe not running text on the console and booting straight into Xorg and Wayland. But aside from that, that works now too, and actually should add this here to the list of changes. Yeah, we built QEMU by default in formal architectures, which was also some hacks and quirkery in configuration, because obviously some are not really supported for high performance TCG tiny code generator code, so TCG interpreter, and even that doesn't always build in details. We now propose a host name, which is pretty handy for people with many devices and testing, so that when you actually boot on a random device, the host name is not localhost, or if I just are here. The host name would be Sony Vaio P, VGN P, whatever, or MacBook Pro and stuff, which is really helpful for testing, especially if not to shut down your server or your wrong embedded board. Of course, you can change this. It's just like additional quality of life improvements that we implemented. I think I mentioned correctly registering EFI boot managers. viewer contributed Nintendo Wii U. I polished it a little bit. So that is T2 is not only the only distribution with which ships with binaries that should work SMP on a, because IBM and Nintendo made some bugs there, probably mostly IBM, and the SMPification of the aging 750 G3-like core there in 2010 or whenever, so that per inter-core synchronization doesn't synchronize. So not only it has T2 as a patches for that and support for that, we also build our default PowerPC ISO so that it should theoretically, hopefully, fingers crossed, patches welcome, testing and patching welcome, actually work stable SMP, maybe more minor patches needed for some things, allegedly also Clang and Rust. We have not yet Clang and Rust patched that. I guess nobody has, but share, like, and subscribe, and probably we make Clang, LVM, and Rust also SMP workaround for Nintendo V3 core IBM 750 alike coffee or whatever the core name was. New T2 developer visible, not the most developer visible, just the usual making stuff work, patching stuff, and so on. However, we have a new T2. I just, like, you don't usually need this anymore, just edit this there for, maybe I should actually remove that. I mostly edit this to signify that this is a T2 in T2 source tree T2 thing. Config. So now you can, similar to git config, set and get T2 config things. That's super helpful for scripting or quick developer things. And due to that, we also renamed some options. I only mention this here for all the embedded developers out there who build self-driving cars and rockets with T2. And yes, we probably should work on our handbook and documents this more probably. So some things were renamed because historically they had a little bit maybe imperfect name from Rock Linux times. Basically names from 25 years ago. Usually I don't like to change random things, and we only changed a few random things just to make T2 config get and set nicer so that you can type parallel and temp fs size max instead of parallel max. So that is once in a lifetime, hopefully probably never renamed again. And the usual caveat applies that due to all cross nature of T2 ISOs, you first need to, if you want to rebuild major GNOME stuff, due to G-object introspection not being cross-buildable, which we may or may not tackle soon, you first need to rebuild some things. Getting started here is, like, best install some things first if you want to, from source, build more stuff like Perl, Python things, just quality of life improvement, that it's once done, and then you can simply use T2 Linux. That is basically the quick shout out of that is what we have been up to. I tracked the time. It is nearly 1,000 hours that went in here since the last release. This is basically 40 hours a week working basically full-time on T2 Linux in the meantime, thanks to your shares, likes, subscriptions, viral videos, and Patreon. So if you want to support all this stuff, would be amazing if you leave some... should have pre-opened this. If you want to leave some dollar in the tip jar for keeping this also somehow my Twitch doesn't work correctly anymore. That is bizarre. I hope so. Patreon has this posted correctly. Also updated the photo today for better representation here on Patreon. That's basically the release. That is what we have been working on. This is what I increasingly show here. People always take for granted that we have 2,500 Linux distribution and they all suck differently, and most of them only support an architecture or two. And yeah, obviously, if you fix things, especially all the core stuff broken, like Spark 64, PowerPC details, HPPA, and also like cursed things like many architectures like HPPA 64 have need two compilers, like things that no other architecture need. So lots of detective work, reading the freaking manual, the sources, and making stuff build. So it's always 1 hour here, 8 hours there, just to keep HPPA risk. Oh, did I mention the Mesa people? Also, we had to spend probably a week, like basically 40 hours with Mesa nonsense back in October, back last week when we figured, like first in October, we figured latest Mesa doesn't work on Spark. Then last week or so, we found out last minute, like, wait a second, upstream Mesa 3D is broken for all big endian. Maybe have some applause. Well done. So that's the only thing we basically ship with most things up to date except Mesa, because that's broken for most things, not mainstream for reasons only those big name developer companies understand of. At least it works on Intel and AMD, right? It's probably enough. Anyway, yeah, that's what we have been up to. Just a quick shout out here. I hope you enjoyed this and learned something. As usual, leave us a comment or a Patreon, what you like and dislike. The big question is, of course, first of all, the big question is, what do we have in the comments? And thank you for all the congratulations. You can help us, and also this is the wrong focus. If I would find the right focus, this somehow does not focus because things. We are on DistroWatch already listed. DistroWatch, probably don't have that here. As usual, we have problems getting into the news because we are not mainstream or too complicated or just too people can't believe that we really do that enough. So, of course, we're listed on DistroWatch and Reddit Linux. And if it's not deleted there, sometimes they delete my posts there, which I, of course, don't post there too often. But like today, they did not delete that yet. Let's see if it's maybe still there. And so if you want to help us, then it would be amazing if you use any of those sources and post them to your local favorite news sites. Because if there are not people reminding, people don't. Apparently, with people, I mean editors and authors and news sites and stuff do not believe that we are real and that we are newsworthy because our name doesn't start with A or D or G or F. And we are not sponsored by the Linux Foundation, so apparently not newsworthy or stuff like this. So don't forget to share, like, and subscribe and circulate this news to further help us get new users and developers. And I should have mentioned, I didn't post it there. I could because it's didn't fit the most in there. Also lost in too many venue. Why? Because I have that is good. This is why I switched. I had a terminal parked there. Sorry for the confusion. Need to find here. I had here the change summary, and it's probably a good idea to shout out all the people who contributed because it's a peak given now 5 years live on YouTube and Twitch. Increasingly many contributors. So that is basically peak contribution in 20 years at Rock Linux times. I said it before, we had more contributors, but look at that. Of course, AI also taking over T2, so our AI actually has the most. But also, you see what a difference this makes. Yes, embracing our own AI, writing our own AI, data, our beloved bot. And maybe we should next make LOL. 1184 commits by data, basically updates, right? Our update searching AI bot thing. But this also means 1184 things I did not have to do, or I or you or nobody else here. Then, of course, followed by my commits, Notec, new contributor, Foxdroid, and then all the other aliases here from Discord, YouTube, Twitch, and stuff. That is basically peak contribution since probably around 2004-ish also, which is amazing. Thank you all for all your patches and write access, and basically also more people got write access and can commit themselves, which is obviously better than Linux kernel because only Linux kernel, only Linus Torvalds can commit there. And actually, I don't like to commit everything myself because that is annoying and takes time. So we actually have other core developers, like in other Linux distributions, of course, just not the Linux kernel. But that is amazing because that means I can focus on fixing Spark things and Itanium things and hopefully writing a microkernel because the Linux kernel crashes and is otherwise not amazing and constantly delete features. And did I mention we want a more stable microkernel? Anyway, maybe next year we find enough time to make our microkernel thing usable. So don't delay, try this stuff, get your entry in the T2 high score listing, and otherwise just send it to a news site or two. Let's see. Yeah, we have some comments, which of course we now have multiple, especially given we are live on YouTube and Twitch. Just installed PowerMac G5, running very well. Happy to hear this, but Firefox is still broken. Yes, that is why I'm so annoyingly asked for patronage and stuff. We previously tried a GoFundMe that was a bit of a fail. Unfortunately, $160 or so, if that still finds it here somewhere, maybe not, who knows with this stuff. It was some $160 or $180, which is of course not really enough. But the good thing is, and that is also why T2 is so much bigger than other Linux distributions, supporting all architectures, because we have basically the same bug. So Firefox works on all little endian architectures for us, including MIPSEL and ARM, of course, and RISC-V, and we tested this and we're using this even on RISC-V 64, but on all big endian all big endian builds crash in a similar way. So yeah, this is the kind of stuff my to-do. Unfortunately, my to-do last summer was 666 lines of to-do. Unfortunately, despite probably resolving 66 lines, my to-do grew over 820 lines or so, which is more amazing that we have so many new contributors, so I can focus on the 820 whatnot lines of other things.